Welcome aboard. This is the bonus group coaching call, and I apologize for anyone who's got confusion about the links and everything like that. We really don't know what's happening with Zoom, but what I do know is that we have Ken here, and Ken's going to walk through some really cool things regarding how to set up referral businesses and how to set up some really cool ways in which you can bring in business as a byproduct of just doing what's fun, as a byproduct of doing good in the world, as a byproduct of really putting your heart and soul into these ripples that you can create for the world. And I'm a big fan of building businesses in a way that's unique, in ways that allow you to stand out in different ways, but also where you get to be creative, right? We get to really go into our heart and think, okay, what's a very resourceful, spontaneous, creative, inspiring way in which I can get my business out there, right? In which I can put things out there for, just for some people to know more about me as a byproduct of just doing what's fun, doing what's good in the world, and having these channels just come back to my business organically. And so if that's the question that you guys have of how to really not only get more business, but do it in a way that's fun and do it in a way that's really aligned and heartfelt, then that's why we have Ken here. So welcome, Ken. How you doing?
I am doing awesome.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I'd love to first of all, if you want to give a little bit of a background as to, your entrepreneurship journey and what it's all led to, but then also how you came upon, just certain systems and certain ways in which people can engage with building referral partnerships within their business.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess my first business adventure was back in the early 1990s, and I took over a martial arts school that was just struggling in town, and I was in college at the time and just not doing well with the whole structured learning thing, and was taking some martial arts classes just for myself, and then came in a little early, saw a bunch of smiling kids. And this is around the time of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Karate Kids. So there's this shift happening. And so I saw these smiling faces and just thought, wow, I mean, this is something that I think I would like to do. So I started learning to be an instructor, and an opportunity came up to take over this little school. So I took it over, dropped out of college, just went all in, did the real crazy entrepreneurial thing. And over the next 10 years, I grew it into a student base of about 350 students, ranging in age from 3 to 80. It was in the top 5% membership and grossing schools in the United States, in a little town in Connecticut. And just took everything I learned. The idea was just thinking in terms of I always believed that business should be an asset to the community. And our role is to be a resource for the community. So we started exploring different ways to, through the martial arts, invest in the people in the community. And what we found was, the more we were able to put our energy and our attention into the students and the people we were serving and into the community that the business resided in, the more that came back to us. Just referrals came, and we did a lot of outreach, and that was really how we grew our business. So we didn't have to spend a lot of money ever, like marketing and promoting and doing all of that kind of stuff. We just kept being awesome. And the challenge with it was systemizing it in a way where people were able to figure out who you were, how to find you, and what you were really about, so that you could find the right partnerships, the right relationships, all of that kind of stuff. And over time, so I started with martial arts. I don't really, I still actually sold the majority interest in the school. I don't run it anymore, but I still consult and help. We built a gym. We built a community art gallery. Our biggest project was a 16,000 square foot family enrichment center that taught everything from ballet to chess to painting. We put a full restaurant in it, indoor park, all kinds of stuff. So just been 30 years of just figuring out how to add value to people's lives through business, just like all of you. And I just didn't have a lot of interest in doing things. We weren't into self-promotion. We wanted to be living brochures and just put good work out there into the world and then just make sure that they were able to find us. So does that make sense? Is that helpful?
I like the idea of just things happening as a byproduct of just being awesome, as you describe. If you focus on just your zone of genius and just, spreading your love in way and your unique gifts in ways that people can't ignore you, and people see how brilliant you are, then things just have that ripple effect, don't they? Right. That's the amazing part.
Yeah. And what's interesting about it is you can't always know where it's going to come from. So, but what you do know is you can control what you put out there, the quality of it, the intention behind it. And we learned this lesson early on. I went in 1 month, we added over 60 new students to our business, and I had no idea why. We hadn't changed anything, nothing was different. And I found out almost a year later, we had a student, her name was Wendy, her child had trained with us, and she owned a local day camp. And she was on the school board. She knew everyone in town. She loved the work that we were doing with her kids. So she started telling everybody about us. So she was this champion that was hidden, just embedded into our student base. And I wasn't doing anything special for her or her kid. We were just doing what we do. We were doing the work. And she brought so many students to us. And it really struck me. It's like, you don't know where it's going to come from, but you do know that it will come if you do the right things, if you put the right things out there. And the question became, and I guess this is the question for everybody to reflect on, and I'll put this stuff in the chat so I can copy it and paste it in as well. But what do you think of the idea? This is where it started for us, of just putting something good out into the world simply because you can. Just genuinely doing that. I always loved the Zen principle of no trace, where it's, you do something good and you're invisible. You do it because it's right. You're not looking to get anything back from it. And the feeling of that, but then how do you balance that with the fact that you have a business that requires some kind of revenue coming back, or you're doing a lot of good and then you just starve, right? So it was resolving that. But what was interesting to me was thinking about that idea of, what if my thought in my mind, in my heart, what I'm doing is I'm putting it out there because it's the right thing to do. And these people deserve my best, even if it never comes back to me. And I'm going to trust that if I design it right, some of them, it will come back to me, and usually in interesting and indirect ways. So that's kind of the first thought.
Well, here's my question to everyone. Who here has that belief that if you have that energy, that what you put out comes back to you in spontaneous ways? Show of hands, who has that belief? Cool. And so that's what that's what I think requires a lot of trust, doesn't it? When if you do have a lot of stress around things aren't necessarily coming back in the business. How do I do this full time? How do I, pay my bills, my rent and whatever, and put that out and put this out into the world with blind faith that it's going to come back in those ways? That's not only a deep trust, but it's a deep, I guess, what you're really calling like a bit of a spiritual belief around just do it because it feels right. That detaches from all expectations of what you get in return, doesn't it? All expectations of what am I expecting to return, what, is meant to happen here. And if we're able to do that from a place that's, I guess, more scary to the mind, you might actually be able to welcome in some things that are really outside the mind, and to tap into that power. What else do you have on that, Ken?
I think make sure that you're cheating layer your referral programming and your marketing in general so that you have multiple buckets, so if you can trust the fact that you can do this type of referral and be patient with what comes back by having other more traditional referral methods that are working for you. And it's a good book. I don't remember the author. It was called Traction. And they talk about testing, very consciously and intentionally testing different marketing styles and initiatives and seeing which ones you get traction with and then focusing your energy there. So for us, we were just fortunate in that this style of referral and outreach got a lot of traction. So we were able to forego a lot of things that other people are doing, whether it was Google AdWords or Facebook marketing, that kind of thing. But if it hadn't worked, we would have needed to have other things that were allowing for business viability while we kind of nurtured this other style. So, so I think that's a big thing to remember. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. You got to diversify and then pay attention to what's working for you. It's different for each of us.
There's that combination of both, I guess, the energy you put out there with the right intent, coupled with the business, the business smarts, the business intellect, right? Of what's the strategy that's going to work here? How can I test and tweak and have, so it's like both the right and left side of the brain, it's both the masculine and feminine. It's the balance of putting something out there in ways that, rely on all your resources, all your internal resources of both the divine surrender, divine trust, your intuition, your internal resourcefulness of what you're meant to put out there, but also the mission of why you're here, the unique gifts you're here to give to the world, and do that without those expectations. And then build a strategy on top of it. Say, hey, what's working, what's not working? What other resources do I have to build a strategy and a plan to put that out there? That's what I'm a big fan of, is just using all internal resources to do that. What do you think would be a good way we could introduce this to the group in terms of how do they get started? How do they get started with implementing something like this in their own business? Like, what does that look like?
So I've got 3 steps. Oh, and this is all. So I made an ebook. Tyson, you've probably read it, I think, right? The Ripple Maker referral plan. It's free. You can, get it right through our. If you join our email list, it goes out. I think it's the first or second thing we send out to people. But oh, there you go. Traction. Gino Wickman. There we go. But yeah, so that goes into more detail. But I mapped out a few basic steps, and really, for us, it's always been a 3-step process. And I'll copy and paste it into the chat. But basically, the first thing is you got to create something of value that positions your clients as the hero of the story. So you're not thinking about something that has value to you. You're looking back at your work through their eyes. So you're designing it in a way. So that's why right now I'm doing the Ripple Maker blog, where I'm basically writing blogs about all of the awesome people in groups like the Serving Circle. And I'm not asking for anything in return. I'm just doing something that lets you kind of see yourself through a different lens and that you can share and use for your marketing and all that kind of stuff. So and the shift is thinking it through that lens. So it's not, it's literally got to be what's going to, when they pass this on or when they receive it, how is it going to make them feel good about the act of then passing it on to others? Does that make sense? I like to pause in case there's questions and then check the chat and stuff too. Okay. So that's step 1. And then step 2 is you should make it easy for them to share it with the people they care most about. So, and a lot of times, whether it's really nice with the digital world, we used to have to do this through, back in the 90s through printed stuff and, direct mail and all of that. It's much easier when you can just share a link with someone, but one of the things is it's better for them to be thinking about someone specific and then making it a more personal invitation instead of just like, a blast to all of their friends on Facebook. It's, they see what it is and they're thinking, I know exactly who needs this, who this is for, and they share it out. And then the third thing is you brand it in a way that points back to you and what you do. So it's not an advertisement, but the way you design it, like we talked about our awesomeness stickers was a good example. This is just a fun project we did. We just, we go into, as entrepreneurs, we go into places and we interact with people and think, I'd hire them. That would be a great employee for us, and we just wanted to express our appreciation for the fact that they were doing good work. So we made a sticker that said, thank you for being awesome at what you do. And we would just give it to people, just in the grocery store, or the coffee shop, or, wherever we were. And, and then they'd wear the sticker all day. And at the bottom, it had a website that just kind of celebrated that. And that website talked about who we were that had sponsored that program. So, so it's like simple things like that, where the focus again is on the contribution, but you do give them some way, some pathway that you've designed that lets them come back to you, if they choose to. Now, put those 3 steps in the chat.
I like that idea, since, I mean, a lot of us are asking ourselves the question of, okay, how do I put my work out there? How do I get out there in front of the right people? How do I get out there in front of more people? Rather than asking ourselves these questions of, what can I do? What's something I can put out there that would make other people feel good about sharing it? Is anyone else asking themselves that question? It's a very unique and creative question, isn't it? And then how do I make that thing very easy for people to share with the people they most care about? So that's not just, I'm going to, encourage people to spread this out into the world, but really, how do I design this in a way where they're like, I need to share this with Mary. I need to share this with my mum. I need to share this with my neighbor, right? It's the people they care about. I don't think many people are asking themselves these questions, Ken, but I think that's what makes, this sort of ripple maker strategy so effective and so unique, is just the questions you're asking allow us to go a little bit deeper with thinking in more unique ways. So it's very cool.
The other thing that was kind of interesting about it was we started finding, like, we would try, like, for a while in the martial arts, they got really big on the idea of recruiting through referral to get new students. And someone was like, for every person that signs up that was referred, give them $100 cash. They were like, or do referral drives and prizes. And what we found was our people were offended by that idea. They felt that actually was detrimental. They felt good about sharing who we were because of who we were. They didn't want to get anything out of it. And what was interesting to me was people that were referred in that way were always our best clients, our best clients, because they're coming to us for a very different reason from someone who's just like, how can I get points or get prizes or get a perk or something like that? It's transactional. So, and we found that we may get less referrals, but we get referrals that we can have lasting relationships with over time. So, and that was really what, got us thinking more and more about these types of questions, which is, okay, they want to tell people about us, but at the same time, they're not trained in our messaging. They're not our team members who can fully explain our programming. So we had to design things that they could share that would help people understand who we were without us being able to directly translate that message out.
It's very cool. It's a good point. It's almost like when things are transactional, then you get transactional relationships. But when things are shared from like a heartfelt love, guys, how like love is very much an amplified emotion. Like love expands. If you share things Like if I share things with my mum, I'm a big fan of my mum, love my mum. If I share something with her, thanks, Wayne, I get a thumbs up from Wayne. If I share things with my mum from a real heartfelt place, she becomes she becomes like a heartfelt fan. She really takes that to heart. Compared to if I share something because of an incentive, that's a points or bonus or financial incentive, then it seems very transactional rather than it flowing from my heart with love. Right. So it's just a different energy, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting how just the way people remember you changes. Like, another example, we do the various outreach programs through all of the businesses that we do, and so we'll go in and we'll work with school kids, and I'd actually designed a program called Go Beyond the Grades it was designed to help kids and teachers more with having a positive, productive learning environment. So it wasn't about getting better grades. It was about the social elements of it, connecting to their teacher, the way they feel about going to school, looking forward to it instead of being afraid for whatever reason. But one of the things we do is we do a program and the kids would get a What We Learned Today handout. We literally titled it that because kids go home from school and the parents say, "What'd you learn today?" And they say, "I don't know." So we gave them a sheet and they would just say, "Here," and they would give it to the parents. But we gave the teacher a tool as well. So we would give them something that they could use to help them manage their classrooms better. So that they had an additional resource that wasn't, it was their resource to give to their students to supplement the work that we had done on their behalf. And we'd get a lot of referrals from teachers directly. They would tell parents to send their kids to us, based on that. So, so it's like that way of thinking. It's like, how do I help them feel like my main motivation here is to make their lives better in some way. And through extension I'm not even just thinking about making their lives better. I'm thinking about everyone in their circle's lives being better. And then everyone in their circle. So literally ripples that spread from one single point of impact.
I have a question for the group. Who here is getting some ideas about what they can do for their business? Any show of hands? Because these are some in-depth questions. Okay, cool. What I find is it can be since they're such unique questions, it takes some depth of thinking, doesn't it? That's what I find with applying this. When I'm thinking about, okay, how can I do this for my business, for the serving circle? Ideas definitely do come. But I think when it comes to, when it really comes to, I guess, putting something out there in a way that is so unique, it takes some brain power. It really does. So spend some time doing this, but also continue to just ask yourself these questions and see what answers you can get.
And from Jim Collins' work, bullets first, then cannonballs. I love that. He talks about, like, the ships wouldn't put all of their gunpowder in a giant ball and just shoot and see where it landed. They use muskets to calibrate. They fire little tiny pellets and use less resources until they had accuracy. Then they would fire the cannonball. So this is a similar thing. Just test little things, ask questions, try things. And if they don't work, that's okay. If you didn't try to think it all the way through before you ship, you just start doing little micro experiments and then just take the feedback and adjust. And, our best programs probably took 2 years before they were really, like, kind of self-sustaining and really working well, because we just had to keep tweaking them and getting feedback from, whether it was actually working or not.
Beautiful. Do we have any questions here? Renee, what you got for us?
Just to ask, Ken, I love your presentation. I just love that. And I love the way you speak. It's so calm. And if you ever write a book, I would love to hear it on audio, because it would just make me it's a meditative, the way you speak is very meditative. Not that you're making me sleepy, but it's just very common. That's what I'm sharing. So
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. So I have I have some businesses, and I've learned that each business, instead of saying I help all people find everlasting love, I help all couples find more love and passion and intimacy. I have I call it an angel avatar that I've actually named a couple, and then I have a single woman between the ages of 45 and 65, and her name is Carissa, and blah blah blah. I can go into her, who she is, a demographics and psychographics of her. Did you do the same thing when you're looking for more students for your dojo, for your martial arts school, a perfect angel avatar child, or is it to everybody? Because I like to zero in on a target, but create the target, manifest it, and it comes to fruition. Did you do that as well? That's my question.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially with our bigger center, Quester's Way, our whole thing was we're focusing on families who love the idea of learning and growing together. That was who we would vividly imagine them, just like you're talking about. And we built all of our language, the way we would hire and vet, everything was geared around them. And what would happen is the people that were going to thrive in your business knew they were in the right place because you were talking to them. You built the business around them. And it was interesting because the other thing we found early on, I was afraid people wouldn't like me when I first started in business. And so I kept trying to be different things for different people. And you guys all probably know how that worked out. It's exhausting,
people
right?
pleasing. You can't, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Actually, I like what you're just saying, Ken, because one of the things when I hire somebody or I'm going to work with a client, when I hire people of the businesses that I have, whether it's real estate or investments or finding out a CPA or investment broker, whatever it is, I always hire for attitude. The good attitude, they're on time, they show up, they're confident, of course, but the most important thing is their intention, what they have the intention working with me. And I always can see that. And it's a test. And you can tell if somebody's of integrity or if they're full of, baloney or not. And you can even see with children and their parents. One of the things I would see is maybe that the parents are pushing their kids to do something that they don't want to do. So I'm imagining how you are, Ken. You're probably saying, because you just said the families are working together. Not that the kid doesn't want it, they want to play baseball instead of martial arts. That would be not in alignment with what the values are. It would be falling apart. So I believe that when you said the families are working together, that they all want to go to the martial arts studio together as a family. Not the parents are pushing the kid to do something they don't want to do. Is that right?
Yeah. And what's funny is as our understanding of the contribution that we could truly make expanded, we opened this bigger center because we got frustrated with families who just martial arts wasn't something they were interested in. And what we were really interested in was helping people learn the joy of learning, and the fact that they could learn anything. So that's why we ended up opening this bigger center where we're teaching 150 classes a week of everything, movement-based, project-based, game-based. We even taught Dungeons and Dragons. And it was anything anyone wanted to learn. If we had a technician who had that skill, we'd teach them how to teach it, and we'd build programming in for it. But it was always exactly what you're talking about. The idea is if they walk in and they love the idea of learning and growing together, and there are classes for adults, classes for kids, they could eat dinner together and share that experience as well. So it's just meaningful human connection and empowered learning were our top two priorities. And then finding the joy of the present moment. Like our tagline was just best day ever. You walk in the door, we want to give you your best day ever because this is the only one you got, So, but yeah, it was that clarity. And what was so interesting is when people don't like it and they push back against it, you're so clear that you have the resiliency to gracefully say, sorry, too bad. This is who we are, and we're saddened that it's not for you, but this is who we are. And you don't get pushed, by the winds of people's different needs and perspectives. You serve the community you're best fit to serve, and you feel more energized by that. Yeah.
it must have been a joy for the families to work with you and your teachers, right?
Still
Everybody
is.
enjoyed themselves.
Yeah.
That's why there was so many
Yep.
referrals.
Yeah, and it's become multi-generational. The guy who runs the martial arts school started with me when he was 5, and he's
Wow.
married, and like we've literally had, we're getting close to our 4th generation that's come through this, that business. And then we've had a lot of offshoots, like from our larger family center, people that have started their own leadership programs. They've gone on to run restaurants or own their own restaurants. So, because our idea is, let's leave them better than they found us. So they've grown and evolved, and they can just go be awesome, whether they're working with us still or doing something else.
Well, this is a
empower
wonderful
them and
thing.
energize them.
Yeah, it's wonderful because of
Yeah.
you're teaching them the legacy. When you say generational, it's
Yep.
succession, just the succession of leadership from you and your teachers, and then it spreads out, whether it's a restaurant or opening up a real estate branches of real estate offices or branch offices of banks. It's all starts with leadership and values
Yeah.
and beliefs in alignment with what you're teaching the children. So I think that's fantastic.
The real estate reminds me, here's another example of this ripple maker thing. I worked with a real estate agent, and we go through this process of who are you really, and what it came down to was she didn't sell houses. She helped people become successful homeowners. And that was a different thing. Like, it expanded it from transactional to where she created like a new guide to homeowners. Like, here's things you probably don't know that you should know about owning a house. Like, you're going to have to clean the lint trap on the dryer thing, have someone do that so your house doesn't catch on fire, but no one may tell you that. Or here are trustworthy plumbers. And she created all of these tools that she would give to homeowners that then they would give to other homeowners. And it really exploded her referrals. And it was just that shift for the way that she thought about what she was called to do, which was not selling houses. It was helping people become, successful homeowners. So I thought that was so cool when
It
we
is.
came to
And I
that
think what you're
realization.
saying too, Ken, it's not being a real estate hustler. That's being a real estate hustler. It's being a person of love and compassion to help buyers find their perfect home so they're successful homeowners. But it's being, the be, do, and have, but it's being in that place of love and compassion to help people buy. That means they have to find a mortgage broker and the right bank and get their FICO score, all that stuff. But it's the being and helping versus being like a quick selling real estate broker, just burn and turn, or turn and burn or something. That, you know what I mean? That just like a mill.
Yep.
There's some real estate people who it's just like a mill.
Yeah.
And then there's some who are loving and compassionate. Those are very few, but those are people who are probably more into the personal development and emotional intelligence in the being of love and compassion as a real estate person to help people. Thank you, Ken.
That's another,
I'm sorry.
if you think about what you all have the ability to do is answer questions for people that they don't even know they should be asking yet, because you're able to see over a horizon that they don't really know exists because they don't have your expertise or your experience. So not only are you able to bring their awareness and attention to questions that are going to have value to them, you can help them shorten the learning curve by answering it for them, or at least pointing them towards the resources that answer it. So, and that's another part of this referral thing. None of us, we all have ignorance, because we're human, we're not omniscient. So if you're able to help, bring awareness to things that will be beneficial to them, that's a gift that you're putting out into your circle, into your world.
Do you want to give us an example of that, Ken, of how you can, I guess, answer those questions, to questions they don't even know they need to answer, they need to ask yet? Do you kind of have an example of what that would look like?
Yeah, a good one is a consumer guide. And we would use this a lot, especially, working with children for so many years. I hated hearing horror stories of someone enrolling their children into a program that was risky for them, like either run by someone who is unethical or potentially abusive or manipulative. There are a lot of, there's a lot of risks with that. So we created like a consumer guide, which helped parents, whether they were with us or not, just know the questions to ask and what to look for. Like an example would be, do they allow the parents to observe the class? There are places that say, no, we don't want you distracting them. And I'm like, that's a huge red flag. If they're not going to let you be right there seeing what's happening with your children, walk back out the door. So we just put together literally just like a little consumer guide that was geared towards, we're the industry experts. So we're going to help them know how to navigate things that someone outside of the industry isn't aware of. So consultants, when someone asks me, how do you pick a good consultant? I'm like, someone that asks you questions instead of just giving you answers. If they're just selling you on what they know or their system, that may limit your ability to be successful with them. But if they're curious and they want to know about you and there's a lot of discovery, that's probably a good sign. So it's like that kind of stuff. And you just put it into a ebook or downloadable PDF, something like that, simple tool for them.
Beautiful. We all got that, everyone? Awesome. So get the brain going around some ideas you can implement in your own business. You all have an audience, you all have existing networks, you all have, partners possibly. So with the resources you have at the moment, I think a really cool question to ask is, what do you stand for? What are the things that you really would love to ripple out into the world, whether it's particular behavior and energy, particular ethics? What is it that you would love to change the world with? Because I think that might be a really good, a deep question to say, what would I want to ripple out into the world that feels like a calling? It feels like a soul's mission, not necessarily as a byproduct of business being referred back to you, but what in your heart do you feel like the world needs most? I'm sure you can that might get the brain going, that might get the heart getting answers, because we all have a mission. We all have a purpose here. We all have something that we think, the world needs most. And if you're driven by something like that, your mind might come up with some really resourceful answers. Because our mind can get a little bit trapped when it's like, oh, okay, how do I answer these questions? But I still need business, and my business does this, my business does that. And maybe you can just start with what do you want to spread in the world that is outside your business, right? Or that's just a byproduct of your business. Like with Ken, because when I hear the example of the kindness stickers, just saying, hey, you're awesome at what you do, just to spread love and kindness, that's got really, really nothing to do with martial arts, or really nothing to do with, it's just Questa's way, or just, it's got really nothing to do with a business in and of itself. It's just spreading kindness by saying, hey, you're awesome at what you do. Here's a recognition of that, right? But it's a really cool way to say, hey, I just want to spread kindness. I want to spread recognition for the people who are putting in the effort to really, connect with people and do a good job at what their task is. So maybe that'll be a really good way to just start and say, hey, what's a really cool thing I'd love to put out there into the world? What I think is on my heart that the world needs. Do you think that might be something, Ken, that could get people's brain going with some answers here?
Yeah, and listen to what your clients are saying. Like another fun one we did, it was called Just Because. And these were downloadable coloring sheets that we had one of our students actually design them. And just listening to parents who would just feel unloved by their kids because their kids are just being egocentric and being kids. And they're like, I'm doing all these things for them. And sometimes I just don't even know if they noticed. So we created these coloring sheets that we would hand them out to the kids. They could pick, there's like 8 of them. And it'd be like, just because I love you, or just because I appreciate you, or they could do them for friends, just because you're my friend. So, and they would just put their name on it, they'd color it, and they'd put who it was to, and then they just give it to, we had so many moms come in crying, from that. And it was just listening, and they'll tell you, I mean, as entrepreneurs, most of us are constantly looking for problems that we can solve to the greater good. And we're almost always dissatisfied with the solutions currently being offered, which is why we drive ourselves and everyone else crazy, coming up with new and interesting ways to solve things, right? So just keep doing that. And so many of these things were simple. They weren't complex. They're just, well, they weren't complex as long as they didn't let me do too much of it, because I would get too crazy in my own head and try to create these insane websites and do all of this extravagant stuff that was unnecessary. So I had good people around me that would rein me in and make sure that I had good structure, for it. But yeah, you just ask your clients, what's a problem that needs solving, or, what would you love to see, related to what you do, or something like that, and just see what they say. That's where most of our ideas came from. It didn't come from us. It came from the people that we were looking to serve better.
When it comes to, I guess, when it comes to executing on these questions, Ken, if people, what else do you think people can implement that make these steps a little bit easier for them? I guess when it comes to, is there some things when it comes to social media, when it comes to emails, when it comes to, the resources that we have available to us for all the online ways in which we can, refer all offline. Are there any other tips you have? Are there any other strategies or ways of executing that might be able to make it a little bit easier for people?
So in our experience, well, first of all, as we can be very heart-based, you need some rigor. There needs to be some structure and some practicality built around it. It's like, if you were to look at the katana sword, what makes it effective is it's super hard and super soft metals folded around each other. If it was just hard metal, it would shatter. If it was soft, it wouldn't hold an edge. So, so when you're thinking, you've got to, you love your ideas, but don't fall in love with them, like, structure it and then test it and then get feedback on it. So that's the first thing. But then the other thing, referrals only work as well as the relationship you have with the person you're handing the tool to, or asking for the referral from. So, so it's really just the deeper the connection of trust and respect, and the more they view you as someone who's truly an advocate for them, the likelihood that they're going to pass these things on goes up. So, so just blasting out, hey, I have a new, I test this, like I did the Ripple Maker referral book, and I put it out through Facebook and just said, hey, I've got a new ebook. If you want it, shoot me a link. And I had a few people, I think it was 7 that, and then I emailed it to them. So, but then I went to a few people individually and said, I want to share this with you. And they know they know a lot about my work, and I've helped them before, blah, blah, blah. And I said, please share it with people that you think it would help. And in a week, it reached over 100 people. And I didn't talk to 100 people. I talked to 10 who I had that kind of a relationship with, and they saw the value and they felt good about sharing it, because when I gave it to them, I said, if you know people who are struggling with referrals, this will help them. And they know me, and they trust the fact that it will help them, because I know I'm good at what I do, most of the time. So, so when I passed it on that way, so I think it's like, who are the people who are in that inner circle? They're part of your tribe, they're just the ones that really get you and you get them. And when you're taking that brave step of putting something in their hands that you believe in and that will have value, they put a lot of consideration into that. They're not just resharing or reposting. They're like, yeah, I'm going to think about this for a minute.
Any other questions? I mean, this in of itself is like, as I said at the start, I like to think how we can do things different, and the different questions we can ask ourselves lead to different results. So Ken, man, what you're sharing here can be life-changing for people. It just how to approach business in a different way. And you guys can feel Ken and his energy. He just loves helping people, and he just loves what he does. And I think anytime you guys add him into your network and really get to delve deep on what he's putting out there into the world, you can't go wrong, really. So for the next 4 minutes or whatever we have here, you guys can feel free to ask Ken any questions regarding how to really execute this for yourself. And I'd love it if we just keep this conversation going. I'm trying to find some ways in the group we can do this, but I'd love to throughout the week see how you go executing this, whether it's messages to me, messages to Ken, or the group. I think that would be really, really cool. I messed up, it seems, today, open and vulnerable and honest, is that Zoom was mucking around a little bit, and I started the collaborative call instead of the bonus group coaching call. So we're on the collaborative call link. I don't know how many people showed up. I don't know how all of you showed up, but we're all in the same room for some reason. So I think in a minute or so, some people start joining for the collaborative call, but I'm happy to use this space for the next few minutes if you guys want to ask Ken some questions, and then we can just all stay on this call on this Zoom link if you guys would like to stay for the collaborative call as well. So that's what I'm thinking. But is there any questions for Ken? Any questions at all on how to execute this? Do you have any ideas for your own business you want to go over? Any ideas on how to implement this? Any questions?
I did put in 7 steps in the chat.
Okay, great. Renee's got another question. Go for it,
Yeah,
Renee.
I just have a quick question, Ken. When you come up with these ideas, processes, and systems for your businesses, and something works, do you do a thing called test and repeat? Try something, and if it doesn't work, tweak it, do it another way, and you work with a brainstorming with your team or the teachers that you work with. Do you do that brainstorming?
Yep.
and write out ideas and maybe a business plan that you can implement, and do you do first quarter, second quarter, and numbers that you've got to reach to cover all the bills and the salaries and things like that? Do you do that?
Yeah. We actually use something called the Helm, and it's a 5-spoke process to running your business. And you think about it this way: there are 5 levers that you need to push. Any of them will move the business in a direction, but all of them need tending on a regular basis. And for me, just the way for me to not get lost in my own head, because I'm very conceptual, I had to build frameworks like that. So yeah. And whenever we put in a new system, whether it's a training system for a class or even like something for, how to use a 3-bay sink in a restaurant, we would always we'd identify what are like key metrics that are quantifiable. So for example, if a teacher comes to us and we start training them to teach classes, they don't unlock additional classes until they can reach a certain number of participants in the class they already have. So it's a very simple number. We will support them, we'll help them get there, but it's not subjective, it's objective. So I think it's important with referral systems. Sometimes it can be tricky, especially this, because you don't always know that they're coming to you as a direct result of a ripple maker system, because you're just putting it out there and seeing what comes back. But anything you can identify that's quantifiable way to track your results is very, very helpful. And hope is not a plan. So so you want to know that you've got ways to structure and measure things, and then build banks to the river and then just tweak it as you go. Absolutely. It's a very smart way to do it.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Beautiful. Any other questions?
It's really great. Thank you, Ken and Tyson. Wonderful opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks, Esther.
Very welcome. I love talking to people about this kind of stuff. That's why I love chatting with Tyson. It's awesome just swapping ideas, and everybody's doing great work that adding a lot of value to your communities and to each other. So that should be, that those signals should be amplified however we can, in my opinion.
Definitely. Hey, thanks, Ken. Hey, welcome everyone who's joining the collaborative call. I've pressed the wrong link, so we're all on the collaboration link doing the bonus group coaching call. So welcome to Tyson's mistake. Ken, anything else you want to add with all of this? Any parting words? And I'd also love to know how we can also help you most, where we can support you, support your work, and jump on board more with this content.
Yeah, I think that just remembering that the journey is the home, and the whole process of being on these entrepreneurial ventures has value. And it's not about where you're going, it's about who you are. So, and I don't know, there's been ups and downs and successes and failures and bad mistakes and things that were mistakes that made me look brilliant. But in the end, it's a very fulfilling way to live your life. And I think it's important we remember that and we don't get lost, trying to make it or get somewhere. It's the day-to-day things that matter. Yeah. And then I guess, helping me, I'm still interviewing people for the blog. I'm a little bit behind.
Oh, hang on, we've lost Ken, have we?
Oh,
Ken, you're back.
I froze.
You're still interviewing people.
Yeah. So, I'm a little bit behind, but definitely enjoying interviewing people so that I can write blog posts about how awesome you are. That, I share through my networks and you can share through yours. And then the other thing is, Tyson, you'll know about this probably by tomorrow morning, but we are officially launching the Thai Academy. So, and that's the Integrated Entrepreneur Academy. So this is like a thesis on just all the things that we've learned about being an entrepreneurially minded human and contributing your best work to the value of others. So, and it's a flip class. We're putting 30 years of what we learned about education and learning, and every week you get like a 20-minute learning lesson. And then there's all kinds of cool stuff that happens on the back end of it. And there'll be office hours that you can kind of, get together and explore it. So yeah.
Amazing.
So if you join our email list, you can find out more about it. It's the best way to do it.
Beautiful. Thanks, Ken.